Zach, we have Iowa at UCLA. Iowa is favored by 5.5 in this one. Iowa is preparing to face a revitalized UCLA offense that has been quite better the past 2 weeks, scoring 27 against Nebraska, who has a very good defense. So that is a good accomplishment for them. And then 35 against Rutgers, getting up there in the 30s. Ethan Garbers has been fantastic these past 2 games, doing much better. They still don't have a run game. So, I mean, Ethan Garbers was still the leading rusher last game. Who knows? He might take over that again for the team. But overall, UCLA, very good quarterback the past couple weeks. Iowa coming in with not much quarterback depth. In fact, the walk-on quarterback is going to be the backup behind Brendan Sullivan with this one, with Lanes being injured still, and then Cade McNamara is not even traveling. He is still in the concussion, kind of gray zone there. So he's not even traveling for this one. Zach, what are your thoughts on this game?
Sagarin is not everything, but Sagarin has Iowa 16th in the country.
Rank Johnson, I'm telling you,
rank Iowa, you cowards. But in all seriousness,
I wonder where ESPN FPI has them. I'm gonna look at that real fast.
It's high. I think I'm pretty sure it's. It's a good question.
Go ahead. I'll look it up while you talk.
But I think this is all about Caleb Johnson. I think Iowa's defense will limit UCLA. I don't think they'll completely contain UCLA, but I do think Iowa will limit UCLA's offense. And I think Caleb Johnson has another big day. And I think they control the game. They control the clock. They limit opportunities for the Bruin offense. I will say this. This game is more interesting than I thought it had any right to be because of UCLA's improvement. But at the end of the day, this is going to sound crazy. I don't see how UCLA's defense stops the run game for Iowa.
Their run defense has been okay this year, but with Brendan Sullivan as a quarterback, no, I don't see it happening.
I think with Brendan Sullivan, that's the key thing. UCLA's been okay, but I'm trying to remember what rushing attacks that they faced, that UCLA has faced. I know they faced Iowa, which is pretty good. Nebraska's they're not great. So I'm doing a lot of
UCLA has faced Indiana's rushing attack, LSU, Oregon, Penn State, Minnesota, Rutgers, Nebraska. So Oregon really good, Penn State really good, Minnesota really good.
Yeah.
LSU pretty good. They have a really good offensive line, and then Indiana really good. So
yeah.
They faced some pretty good ones, but they haven't stopped any of them.
Yeah, they haven't stopped. But yeah, I'm feeling a little less optimistic about my pick though as we're talking about this, because I think that what's hard is I'm like, my perception of UCLA from preseason has colored my thoughts about them a little bit. But I've been impressed by UCLA the past couple weeks, and I know part of it is Nebraska hasn't played well and Rutgers hasn't played well. But they're making it interesting for me, and they played LSU tough, so I really like the trajectory. That's the word, the trajectory of UCLA. But I going back to Iowa, I do think the running attack with Brendan Sullivan, with Caleb Johnson, I just think it's going to be too much. I've got 31-20 Iowa.
Yeah. I take back what I said about UCLA not stopping the run against Minnesota. Darius Taylor did only have 30 yards in that game, and Marcus Major did only have 18. So they did do a good job of stopping the run in that game. Iowa is ranked 20th in FPI. They are a 12 grade, which there's less than 30 teams that are 10 or more. In college football right now. They're actually above Iowa State, Kansas State, Colorado, Missouri, Oklahoma, BYU. They're over them as well. So, there's a number of teams in here that They have a better FPI score than. And I apologize. I said Michigan was 4-5 earlier. They are 5-4 when I said that. Yeah, so I think Brendan Sullivan here is the main thing that's going to help the rushing attack for Iowa and not let UCLA basically do what Michigan State did, where they just basically said, "You're not going to run on us. You have to pass on us to win." And Cade McNamara did it for one drive, and that was it. I think that Brendan Sullivan, his playmaking ability with his legs, his ability to throw the ball, I think he's going to open it up quite a bit in this one. I think UCLA, like I said, it's been better, but I have some kind of like fool's gold concern with UCLA, kind of like what we saw from Wisconsin a little bit, right? Like UCLA beat Rutgers and they had a really good game, and then they beat Nebraska and they had a really good game. Like Nebraska's offense was kind of looking suspect the past 2 weeks against Ohio State and against and against IU. And then this game against UCLA, they continue to look suspect. They didn't bounce back. They did only score 27 against Nebraska, but like I said, that's a good Nebraska defense, I think, that they scored 27 on and looked better against. So Phillips says UCLA sneaky bowl team. I don't think so, just because of the schedule. They do have the opportunity with Fresno State and USC at the end of the year. I guess maybe. Iowa would be hard to win, but at Washington, USC, Fresno State, what do you think, Zach?
It's more possible than I would have ever thought preseason. Like none of those games are like there's no way.
Right. Iowa's probably the most no way.
Yeah. And even that, like there is like Iowa has to travel to get there on a Friday. So like it's a 9 p.m. start Eastern.
Yeah.
Although it's 8 p.m. Eastern for them for Central Time. So I don't think that's actually that bad, but it's still, I would agree. I think Iowa's probably the most, it's definitely the game that I'm like, they're probably not winning that game. But the other three, like Fresno State's not as good as I thought they'd be. USC, despite being loved by the computers, they're ranked 17th in FPI, by the way. That's just stupid.
Josh Pate has him 17th on his like
JP poll
ratings or whatever.
Yeah. The computers love USC. Like Sagarin has them 7.
That's because every game is close. You don't really take that much of a loss when you're like Rico Wright says, a play away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You're right, Philip. They only have to go 3-1. My biggest thing is they've only won 3 games so far this season. So, and that was a comeback win over Hawaii and a win against Rutgers and Nebraska. Now, both of those were on the road, but granted, struggling teams at the time. So, I'm not saying I don't completely buy it. Obviously, there's the possibility there, but I mean, you're talking 3 straight wins at the end of the year at Washington, USC, and Fresno State. I think they have a good chance of winning all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
But winning all 3 of those, like each game individually, they have a good chance of winning each game. But for 3 straight weeks, I just, Ethan Garbers is going to have to continue to be really, really good the entire time, which he could be, so it could happen. I wouldn't bet on it. If you're asking for betting advice, Philip, I would say no. Don't bet on it.
I will say, though, if UCLA gets one more, like, I already think their season has been a success with 3 wins because that schedule it's the hardest schedule in the country, according to Sagarin. And I think we had them at 1 or 2 wins total. If they have 4 or even 5, I know we've given a lot of junk to Deshaun Foster, but he deserves a lot of credit if they get to 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, no, they do for sure. I think we gave them 1 or 2 wins in the preseason, like you said, and so if they can get to 4 or 5, and if they get to 4 or 5, they'll have 3-4 wins in the Big Ten off of that. When you're playing Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, Minnesota, and Iowa, it's pretty impressive when you get to 3 or 4 wins in the Big Ten. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think for you at UCLA, I guess not unfortunately, I'm not really rooting for either team in this one, but I don't think UCLA is going to get the win in this one, even though Iowa is coming short and they are traveling so far. I do think that is in UCLA's favor, but I am going to give this a really close game. I think UCLA playing better, but Sebastian Castro being back for Iowa, I think this is the best defense that Ethan Garbers is going to see in the past few weeks, and he probably will have a little bit of a hard time throwing in this one, but I think ultimately there's something that happens here, a safety, multiple field goals by Iowa, something like that pushes them over the top, and I think Iowa's going to win this one 26-24.
Ooh, that is a
close one. Close one.
Yeah. Mm.
What did you give your score prediction?
31-20.
That's right.
20.
Okay.
Yep.
UCLA, like Minnesota, is improving clearly. Yes, they totally are. Yeah.
Agreed.
And Deshaun Foster deserves a lot of credit for that.